You are listening to the Good Girl Podcast. My name is Cameo King. I'm the host of the Good Girl Podcast. There wasn't a space for women to be themselves in every facet of their lives. The Good Girl Podcast was created to offer that space, to have conversations with a gutted truth without restriction. Join us every week to unpack your own set of questions and confessions in this good and safe space. Hey, y'all. So, I'm late. I am late. So, a day late and a dollar short. I'm not a dollar short, but I'm a day late. So we typically upload our podcast every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But clearly, here we are on Thursday. Y'all still love me? Do you love me? Are you riding? So you never ever leave from beside me. Cause I want you. So, forgive me. Cause I do like to be consistent, but nonetheless, this week has been weeking. This has been a week, not in a bad way, but just in a busy way. I got some great things coming up, and it was kind of rough. Didn't get to what I wanted to get to, but nonetheless, let's hop into this week's confession, and it comes from me. It's all about me, actually, where I am right now. Probably the reason why we have the podcast on Thursday instead of Wednesday. So it's all about my inability to consistently choose me in all things. My inability to consistently choose me in all things. So what does choosing me mean? It means prioritizing my needs, my desires, and my goals in all things and consistently. So I know you're like, Camille, why you keep saying that? Because it's really not about the prioritization of my needs and my desires and my goals, but it is in all things and consistently. That's what it is for me, because I have chosen myself before, and I've done it in many instances. But again, it's the all things and it's the consistency that's the problem. And I don't know if this is connected to childhood trauma, perfectionism, being a woman, being black, being a black woman. I don't know. It could be one of those. It could be all of those. But whatever it is, I'm tired of it. It is not a characteristic that helps me reach my highest and best self in every area of my life, in all domains, like spiritually, physically, emotionally, relationally, all the alleys, right? It's just not a good look. So I think a part of this struggle is a fear to be perceived as inconsiderate, too much, or disappointing people, to be perceived as difficult, especially when you're a woman and when you understand the politics of being liked or being nice. It makes me think about Mo'Nique. You guys know Mo'Nique. She's the Black American woman actress. She's a comedian. She's the Academy Award winning Mo'Nique. She won the Screen Actors Guild Award. She was Emmy nominated, and it was a big kerfuffle. I don't know where that word came from, but it's here nonetheless. It was just like a big to-do because she shared publicly about, I believe it was Netflix, don't hold me to it, but basically some big deal in Hollywood that they suggested a pay that did not meet her expectations for the type of comedian she was. And the commentary behind it, that some folks, not everybody, but some folks were trying to justify her reasoning, or I guess the company's reasoning for their low pay was because of her attitude, right? That, well, if she would have had a better attitude about it. And I thought about it. I said, wow, I didn't know we got paid to be nice. Like, I didn't know, the expectation to do a job had to do with your attitude, because I know being nice doesn't get the job done for the most part in a lot of professions. But because I think about being a doctor, I don't know if you care if your doctor is nice or not. Can he perform the surgery as expected, right? I don't know if you care if, your favorite basketball player, or if your contractor for your home is nice. Can they do the job safely and do it in a way that you desire, right? Not necessarily about being nice, right? That isn't the lead. But for Mo'Nique in this situation, that was definitely a common thread that I heard, that there was an expectation for her to be nice. And we know this to be true for women, that there's an expectation for us to show up being nice and kind. Now I want to say this. Let me be clear. Let me be clear. I'm not discounting being nice or being kind in the workplace, but for women, we are explicitly taught, Monique is an example, and I just know it from being a woman, that niceness is valued. When I say valued in terms of compensation, upward mobility, and acceptance in the community more than your skill set. What I'm saying is that there is a very clear narrative for women that if we are not all these things to other people, then our livelihood is at stake. Remember, I said compensation, upward mobility, acceptance in the community. So therefore, what happens is we perform out of that. I've performed out of that because I get it. I'm not stupid, right? I understand the politics. And it doesn't negate my skill set either. But it does help. Like if you can do the job, and you nice girl, so when I say that we perform out of that, we attempt to be all these things to all people. And we think that we will eventually get back to ourselves, like get back to what's good for me versus being something for someone else. But we never do. We never get back to what's good for Cameo, what was good for Monique, or what was good for whomever else. It's about everybody else and not ourselves. An example is, it's like typically putting off your own project until the end of the day because you are answering everyone else's questions or helping everyone else in your workspace get their job done, right? It's never buying your favorite food or going to your favorite restaurant because it's the family's desires first, or even not taking the time to find pleasure in certain things, be it physically, be it emotionally, be it mentally. You just don't do it because something else is more important than you or your pleasure. And so I think all these things that I mentioned, I think this is a part of my, and I'm going to put you in it too, my inability to be consistent and intentional about choosing me in all things. And I think this is rooted in 3 areas, and I'm going to share those 3 areas with you. And I think the areas I'm going to share with you, this has to become a practice because I told you it's not necessarily about choosing me. Like I got over that hump. Like, yep, I had to confess that I wasn't choosing me in some of these places. And before I get into the 3 things, I got to that places because I kept getting the short end of the stick. And I was pissed, right? And I could be pissed at nobody but myself because I was the person that was doing it, right? And I am the person that is responsible for myself, right? I am the person that is responsible for my well-being, for my mental wellness, for my physical health, for my emotion, for my spiritual health. I am the person that's responsible for my purpose, for executing some of these things. But I consistently found myself putting other people and other things first, thinking I will eventually get to Cameo. But what happened? I never got to me, right? I never got to me. And so this is kind of how I got to the place initially. And so I had to get over that hump. I had to acknowledge that. I had to confess that and say, Cameo, you are here. Why? Because you made some of these choices and some of these decisions. So you have to make better decisions. But what I found out more recently than not, that this mess is hard. This is more difficult than I thought to consistently do it, and in all things, because there will always be someone or something grabbing at you, and society is always telling me as a woman, telling me as Cameo, whoever I am to these other people, that no, just take an hour and go do this for that person, right? No, you can do that when you get back home, or you'll eventually, like, it's so this is why I'm here, right? And so I had to remind myself, Cameo, you got to do better. You got to do better. So here we are. Let's get to these 3 things. Went off on a little rant, but let's get to these 3 things. Number 1, kind of what I ranted about. You will not get what you want out of life. I don't care how many times you think that the work of self-sacrifice, being a martyr for your family, and putting your needs on the back burner will somehow magically turn into getting your needs met. It will not. You will become frustrated, bitter, and resent the folks and the actions that you did out of sacrifice, out of this beating your chest like, oh, it's okay. I'm the mama. I'm the friend. I'm that person everybody can count on. That's the thing you beat your chest on. You will become frustrated, bitter, and resentful because it is your job. It is no one else's job. No one else's job to articulate your needs and prioritize yourself. And I hear some of y'all saying, I get joy out of my family being okay, being satisfied, or out of my man, my friends, whomever being good. And I get that because I do too, but it shouldn't come at the detriment of you. What good are you to your family, let alone yourself, if you are always depleted and drained and your only joy comes from other folks, not you, other folks, that their needs are being met and not yours? Like, how would you show up in the world if your needs are never met? Matter of fact, let's reverse that. Who would you be if your needs were met? How would you show up in life? This is just a reminder that no one is coming to save you. That may be hard for some of us to understand, but just going to repeat it. And I just really pray that you receive it. That no one is coming to save you. You will not get a gold star at the end of the day. There is no pot of gold at the end of your life for all of your self-sacrifice. You will not get what you want waiting on someone else to do it, because I don't believe God called us to be that. Number 2, do you trust yourself? We hear a lot about trusting other people, but very rarely do we call into question trusting ourselves, trusting our gut, our intuition, trusting my discernment, the Holy Spirit that's in me, that the decision that I'm making for myself is right and is enough. Now, this is a big one for me because typically when I'm vacillating on a decision, it's because I am trusting the voice of someone else over mine. Now, why is that? What has taught me that a voice that has never known my spirit or has not even considered loving or caring for me, let alone caring for me deeply, as valuable, right? Now, I believe that is rooted in us being taught to listen to adults. We're taught this from literally preschool, and because we've had to depend upon adults and depend upon people who've been here before, right? And listen to their wisdom. But again, it shouldn't be at the cost of not listening to our own spirit, right? Because it makes sense. If you're 5, if you're 6, if you're, 10, that you should listen to someone that's 21, right? That you should listen to someone that's 30, that you should listen to the teacher. But again, that shouldn't be at the expense of quelling my own or a child's own internal spirit. And imagine what that does as we evolve. We're always dependent upon what someone else says versus trusting the God in us, trusting the Holy Spirit in us, trusting what our spirit is telling us about the situation. And number 3, the last one. I was going to start this one off in the negative, guys, but I'm going to flip it. Consider what you will gain when you begin prioritizing yourself. When you begin choosing you in all things consistently, think about who you would be. Think about the power you would harness, knowing that you set boundaries, that you did the work, that you said no to become this next version of yourself. You will be unstoppable. You will be unstoppable in your purpose and even in service to others. You will begin to get what you want. Yes, it's that simple. And then again, it's not that simple. It's not, I don't like one of those like silver bullets. I said this on the live last week, silver, gold bullet, whatever. It's a bullet. I'm not saying this as though this is that answer, but it's definitely a huge part of the equation, right? Prioritizing yourself to get you what you want. That simple. You will begin to nourish your soul and spirit by honoring your desires. You will continue on the journey of becoming your best self, the best version of yourself. Imagine, I'm gonna try to keep this positive, but I just want us to compare. But imagine, like real talk, that there are levels to who we are and who we could become. But because we don't want to honor ourselves, because we don't want to prioritize our needs, imagine living here on this earth and never getting past like a certain level simply because we didn't take the time, we didn't do the work. And I want to say this, like I said earlier, it's not easy, but it is very much a practice. It is very much being consistent. It is very much in the small things. It is very much in talking to yourself and asking yourself, what do you want? And literally removing the desires, the concerns, the needs of everyone else in your mind to make that decision. I had to do that twice this week. And I said, God dog it, why are we here again? Why are we here again? Right? But I understood what was at stake, right? It was the next version of me. And so I say all this to say, it's going to take time. It's going to take work. It's going to take what I mentioned, you sitting there being quiet, listening to God, and even asking yourself, what do you want? Not what does your child want, not what does your man want, not what does the company want, not what does the world want. What do you want? And that is when you will begin to thrive. So I hope this conversation was helpful for you. I hope you understand that there is fear present when making these decisions. Because when I say fear, I also think very much, and I know I have, of when I do articulate my needs and when I do prioritize myself, that I still won't get what I want, right? And I don't want to be ignorant. I don't want to paint this picture that, you know, all these blessings are going to rain from heaven and things are just going to fall in your lap. It's not going to happen like that. But you will begin to see the shift, right? And you will learn how to be, I believe, more strategic as well as clear on your desires to eventually get you to what you want. So again, I hope this was helpful. This is genuinely coming from my heart. And I've said this multiple times. I don't think I say it often enough. It is never my desire to like preach at you, but more so to share myself, share my confessions, and allow other folks to come on here and share their confessions. So you can see the authentic versions of people and know that you're not alone when you're walking these paths, and know that maybe some people that you're connected to or you have this image of, that they got their own set of issues that they're working through. And so as always, I hope this heals. And if you haven't already, make sure you are following the Good Girl Podcast on Instagram. Make sure you have subscribed to the podcast. And I told you guys that we are trying to bump our listenership up. So please listen and share. If it is good, share it with somebody. If you're listening and someone has shared this with you, they love you, they care for you. They want to see the best version of you. Thank you so much. This is the Good Girl Podcast.